Hey, this is Russ. This is a continuation of our ride. The last video probably would have been the video getting me here, and now I'm here at Bussy. It was a pretty overcast day coming here, but it seems to be opening up a little bit now. Seeing the sun peek through some areas. The problem again is as we face the sun, we go dark because the camera sees all that light and wants to get rid of it, so it darkens the scene. When we have the sun to our back, then we get a pretty decent looking video. But since Bussy goes around in a circle, half of the video always looks good and then the other half doesn't. Not much you can do about it, so bear with me if you see it as a darkened scene. It should be darker now because I'm actually facing the sun. I think what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to go in the opposite direction of how I usually go. Usually when I get up to the T intersection to enter the trail, I turn right. This time I'm going to turn left. So I think we'll be facing the sun initially. But it's always good to have a different perspective. So let's go this way. So I mentioned before on the previous video, weather is pretty good today. It's about 71 degrees, but we have a nice cool breeze. Anytime we have the breeze, it makes it tougher for me to talk because I can't hear myself with the wind blowing and howling around my ears. And so my enunciation of words sometimes don't come out perfectly. Makes me appreciate how it's difficult for the deaf sometimes to speak because they can't hear it, of course, and so you think you're saying it right, but sometimes it doesn't come out as right, or close, but not exactly. So I do recall one time, as you know, I'm a former photography instructor. I had my own photography school, had thousands of people come through my classes, and so I once had a student sign up for class, and she asked whether she could bring someone who could sign for her because she was deaf. That was actually kind of interesting. I never had someone sign the words that I said, and so she took how long was her class? 4 hours? So I had that lady signing for 4 hours as I was teaching her. Years later, I ran into her again. She was working at a local food store, and she said to me, "You taught me photography." So that was kind of cool. Considering the quantity of people I've taught over the years, very few of them have actually come up to me to tell me that they were in my class. Now, I probably have passed a number of them around town. So some of them probably have seen me, maybe haven't said anything. I think it's easier for you to remember the instructor of your class than for the instructor to remember the thousands of people he's taught. So a lot of times I don't even know that people are my students or were my students, but the students should recognize me. I have had some who've come up to me and said, "Hey, you taught me photography." I ran into a couple in the last couple months, but most of them I don't run into, or they just don't come up and say hi. And the one that I did run into was again at a food store. I was out shopping. She was out shopping, and she was checking out right in front of me, and she goes, "Oh, you're my photography instructor." Yes, I am. And so she told me that she had seen me several times at Costco, but she didn't come up to me and say hi. She says, "I didn't want to bother you." I says, "How much are you bothering me by coming up and saying hello, really? Come on. It's not like I'm unapproachable." Okay, interestingly too, since we're on the topic of being recognized, I recall being in Chinatown I think it was last year, maybe it was 2 years ago, and somebody came up to me and said, "Oh, Russ is right." That was fun. Yeah, you run into people who see you and recognize you. So yeah, if you ever see me out on the road, you're welcome to stop and say hello. All right? Don't think I'm unapproachable. Okay, we have 3 ladies here running. I'm gonna have to pass one. So. Thank you. Yeah, Bussy has a lot more people, usually. So you have runners, you have bike riders, people with strollers. It's definitely more busy. This is a Monday, too. Monday morning. What time is it now? Let's take a look. It's 9:51. You hear things popping on my tires because the path is more littered now with leaves and things. Yeah, I'll come to a point where I won't be able to take these paths anymore. There'll be too many leaves down and stuff. So, don't need a flat, that's for sure. Alright, so what do you think of going in this direction? Everything looks a little bit different because of that. I mean, I recognize my locations now on Bussy. I always hate these poles in the way because it kind of gets in my way. I always feel like you're going to run into it. That's to keep the cars off the paths. But yeah, it's a little tight. I find maneuvering the radrover 5 sometimes get a little bit hard. These big tires are not as nimble, so you can't cut tight turns and things like that. I mean, I could do that on my mountain bike, but I can't do it on this bike. Plus, my center of gravity is a little bit different. I'm a little higher up on this bike. Yeah, and here's one thing that I noticed too. You know, out here, it's not a very defined path. In that the edge of the path, before you run off into the gutter, you can't really tell. Especially with all the leaves down now too. You can't really tell where the path is. So when I ride around the 3-mile path that I usually take, which is the closest path I have, that's a very defined path. You can definitely see you're on the asphalt. Here it's a lot harder. So I try not to go too fast here because I could run off the road and not even know it. Oh, you'll know it. You'll know it after you've run off the road. Okay, now take a look up here. You see here, you can definitely tell where the end of each edge of the path is, but you couldn't tell over in the areas that we were just at. Okay, so it makes it harder. I noticed too on the North Branch Trail, the one in Morton Grove that goes to the Botanic Gardens eventually, that one's kind of similar. You don't have a very defined path, but I don't know how old of a path these are. Like, I know that thing was up there when I was in 8th grade. It was probably there before then. I'm 62 now, just so that you know. They're talking 8th grade when I rode that path, when I first rode the path back out there. And I've always wanted to ride this Bussy Woods path, but I never did it. Not until this year. Yeah, the thing with the Bussy Woods is you got 11 miles. The minute you're on the path, you're committed to 11 miles because there is no way to get off of this thing. Well, there are. I mean, you can get off like some areas. There's an exit point, but then you're not even close to where you started. Like over here, if you took a left over here, you could get over there to the street level. So I guess you could, but if you do the circular path, you're talking about 11 miles. Yeah, I kind of thought that the colors of the trees would change quite a bit by now, but all we have is like dead leaves down on the bottom. There's some yellow, there's some green, but it'd be nice if we had reds and all sorts of things. Not noticed that at all. All right, around here we have the elk. If they're out, they'll be here. They'll be on our left side if we see any. Don't see any now. No, don't see any. Let's see if they're on the other side. And there's a couple. That's a big one, huh? Yeah, that's a big one just laying there. Yeah, that's one of the benefits coming out here to Bussy. Sometimes you do see the elk. They're just taking it easy. Then you got this cool bridge that we're going to go over. Yeah, this is always cool. I remember seeing this from the street level and always thought, yeah, one day I'm going to ride over that. It took me this long to get to doing it. Yeah, I seem less talkative today as I'm just enjoying the ride at this point. If the sun is not beating down on you, if you got some wind blowing at you, that's really the best. Hard to beat. All right, let's talk e-bikes. If you haven't gotten an e-bike or you haven't gotten a regular bike, go get one if you can. They're hard to get a hold of right now. Because just getting out this past year on the bike, yeah, makes me feel good. I can only imagine how tough it would have been if I just had to stay inside again. I was locked down for like 2 years with my bad knee. Pandemic hit, locked us down. My knee replacement locked me down. So really, I hadn't done a whole lot of anything in 2 years. Stuck in the house most of the time. So just getting out was a huge thing for me. And so I credit the e-bike for giving me the opportunity to go out and see things and do things I probably would never have done without one. So yeah, I encourage you to get one if you can afford to do it. I will say, if you do get a bike, you should prepare that maybe one day you will take a tumble. I've already fallen 3 times, but each time was really You know, 2 times was because of lack of leg strength in my left leg and left knee because of the knee replacement. So when my bike leaned towards that way for me to stop, I fell over. It's not from riding. And then the other time, my shoelace got tied on my pedal. I couldn't get my foot off the pedal. So either take the fall or lean to the left and maybe take the fall and hurt your left knee. So I opted to just fall on the right. So, you know, things that you don't expect that'll cause you to fall could make you fall. So if you do get a bike, you should be prepared for that. Think through scenarios that could happen to you and what you will do if that time comes. I know now that if that was to happen to me again, where my foot got stuck on the pedal, I couldn't get my foot off and I couldn't put my foot down to keep me from falling, is to go up on the grass as fast as I can. Fall on the grass, don't fall on the concrete. Falling on the concrete is the worst. My knee actually hit the curb, my right knee, my good knee. Well, I don't really have a good knee, all my knees are terrible. But the non-operated knee, okay, the right knee was operated on too at one time. I had it scoped out once. But the one with the real knee in there, let's say, yeah, that hit the curb. So I learned that if you have an option, if you can even ride up on somebody's driveway to fall on their front lawn, you're better off doing that than it is to fall on the street or to fall on the sidewalk. That would be worse. So think through some scenarios, have it in your mind so that when the time comes, you have a better chance of knowing what you might want to do. All right, here's some water. Yeah, I should one day bring a fishing rod. I don't ever do it. There's people out here fishing. These guys are fishing. You know, for these guys to get to over here, they have to walk a little bit of a distance because there's no close parking lot to that spot. So it's okay. I mean, if you're able to walk, it's okay. When you're not able to walk, then it's not so much fun. It's a little bit of a hike then. So how does this feel coming in this direction? Does it feel a little different? It does feel a little bit different. I mean, to me, I know the area, but it does feel different when you're riding in the opposite direction sometimes. I will say, after seeing my videos as of late, the videos look a little bit better to me in that everything looks very smooth now. We don't have bumpy videos. The horizons doesn't bump around. I mean, the bike bumps around, but at least the horizon should look fairly level. Not bouncy, at least. Not bouncing around. Not necessarily level. It could be on an angle, but at least it's not bouncing around. The videos in general look a little bit darker because the GoPro is set up for a -1 EV. GoPro tends to have the highlights blow out in the bright areas if you don't do that. So most people using GoPros now are doing it at a -0.5 or a -1 EV. That means everything it sees is going to darken it by one stop, which we now, of course, call EV, which is exposure value. Because exposure value could be meaning a change in shutter, it could be a change in aperture. So since it doesn't know which one it's doing, it's easier to call it an exposure value change rather than f-stop change or a shutter speed change. So the videos tend to look a little bit darker, but it also makes it look richer because of that. Colors will saturate a little bit more. I think I'd rather have that than an overexposed video that looks washed out. So I'm usually recording it at a -1 EV. Alrighty. Yeah, even on a Monday, there's people out here. Yeah, they're either retired or not working or something. Day off, who knows? I'm gonna have to slow down a bit here. On your left. Yeah, I will not pass people unless I have a clear view of the left lane. Worst thing you could do is get into the left lane to pass and then have another bike coming up against you. You want to make sure you have a clear path. And we don't see too many rollerbladers anymore. I mean, obviously they're out there. I gave mine to my next door neighbor, and he was able to go out rollerblading with his kids then. My rollerblades were like brand new almost. I bought them and then I started having the knee problems and really never got a chance to use it. So even though it's relatively old in a sense, they look brand new, and they were actually one of the better rollerblades too. They were more advanced, so he appreciated it. He's a pretty good rollerblader too. I was watching him on the street. He can do backward things and everything. I can't do that. I had ice skates too, but I sold those on eBay years ago. They were Nike hockey skates, actually. The two dogs were interested in each other. That, of course, slowed everything down. This is the problem when you go out walking with dogs, because you're going to run into other dogs. You got to be able to control your dog. Growing up, I had a German Shepherd. My dog hated all the other dogs. He'd want to go after everybody. And then we had a Maltese for my daughter when she was growing up. You know, little dogs, they don't have an issue. But big dogs, yeah, sometimes it's kind of hard to control big dogs. It was definitely a workout controlling our German Shepherd. Our dog would chase after. I remember there was one other dog that lived not too far from us, and whenever they put that dog out there, just kind of like on a leash on its own, our dog would see it and want to go after him. A couple times he did go after him, got off the leash, and they had a nice fight. Yeah, our dog won, by the way. felt sorry for that other dog. He really kind of got beat up by our dog. There's a bunch of school buses out here. It's like a field trip out here or something going on. All right, we are coming up to where we started almost. Going over the top of this thing. Most of the bikes have a hard time going up this. Luckily, the e-bikes don't have a problem. I mean, I've seen some road bikes who go faster than me. They struggle going up this bridge. I don't bother to pass them because I know eventually they're going to try to pass me again. So I just let them take their time. I go behind them usually. All right, we have done the circle. I appreciate you guys following along today. If you like the video, go ahead and hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll talk to you guys next time.